In my first life, a burning vending machine filled an elevator with smoke and killed me. In my second, 200 students laughed because smoke was the only magic I could make. The laughter rolled across the academy arena while gray mist leaked from my fingers. It spread over the black tiles, covered 3 cubic meters, and stayed there for 10 seconds. That was more than enough to pass the entrance test. The rule carved above the judges said a candidate needed 2 cubic meters for 5 seconds. Instructor Torrin looked at the rule, looked at my smoke, and pressed a brass button under his desk. A turbine unfolded from the wall. It looked like a metal cupboard with anger problems. The blades screamed. My spell vanished in 1 second. Torrin lifted a red stamp. Combat duration 1 second. Score 0. The stamp struck my paper. The crowd laughed harder. I did not argue. I counted. The turbine had produced wind at 40 meters per second. No other candidate had faced more than 10. The official crystal above the arena had recorded everything. Facts were patient. People were not, but facts could wait. Riven stepped from the line behind me. His silver uniform had enough gold thread to feed my dormitory for a month. He placed one hand over his nose. "Please clean the air before my test," he said. The failed candidate left a smell. His friends laughed as if he had invented humor. Freya did not. She stood beside the wind candidates with pale hair tied behind her head. Her own spell had cut a stone target into 4 clean pieces. She studied the turbine, then studied Torrin. "That was the combat setting," she said. "The entrance setting is lower." Torrin gave her a thin smile. "Are you examining candidates now?" Freya looked away, but only after the recording crystal turned toward her. Riven entered the circle. He threw 3 dark blades through 3 targets. Torrin awarded him 90 points. The blades had missed the red centers, but his father's name was engraved on the new arena roof. Accuracy became flexible when a family bought enough stone. Dean Magnus watched from the high balcony. He wore a dark blue coat and the tired face of a man who had signed too many papers. Torrin whispered to him. Magnus looked at my red-stamped form, then at the line of 400 applicants waiting outside. "The final scholarship goes to Riven," Magnus announced. "Nolan is rejected from the Dark Faculty." My name fell to the bottom of the crystal ranking. Then it disappeared. Riven bowed to the crowd. "I promise to use this opportunity well." He said it while standing on the opportunity he had taken from me. Torrin returned my papers. "The utility faculty may need chimney cleaners." "What was my score before the turbine?" I asked. His fingers stopped for half a breath. 0, he said. "Good. The recording will be simple to review." The laughter weakened. Torrin's smile also weakened. An assistant carried my result to the public board. The crystal displayed the official requirement beside my score, 2 cubic meters for 5 seconds. Nolan, 0. Students noticed the contradiction. A few stopped laughing. Most did not want to be the first person to question an examiner who controlled scholarships. Riven tossed a copper coin onto the tile near my shoe. "For chimney work," he said. I picked it up, walked to the arena cleaner, and placed it in her collection cup. She had spent the morning removing ash left by successful fire mages. Her daily wage was 3 copper. "He gave that to you," Riven said. "You missed your target again." The nearest candidates laughed before they remembered whose family owned the roof. Riven's face tightened. Torrin ordered the next test to begin, but the recording crystal had captured the coin, the rule, and the score together. By the time I reached the arena gate, students were already sending copies to the dormitories. I had lost the scholarship. Torrin had lost control of the first version of the story. I walked out with 2 silver coins, 1 spare shirt, and no room after midnight. It was not the worst inventory I had ever managed. In my first life, I had died with 1 wet shoe and a bag of groceries trapped under a vending machine. At least this time, I still had both shoes. Hugo found me behind the kitchen. He was broad, cheerful, and permanently smelled of bread. He pushed a wooden bowl into my hands. The stew was thick with beef, potatoes, carrots, and onions browned in butter. Steam rose from it. Hugo had added black pepper and a spoon of sour cream. Beside the bowl sat 2 slices of bread toasted until their edges were crisp. "Rejected people eat free," he said. "That policy will ruin you." "Only if the academy keeps Torrin." I ate slowly. Warm food made bad mathematics less offensive. A bed in the city cost 12 silver a week. I owned 2. A night in the stable cost 1. But the stable keeper had already rented every clean corner to failed candidates. Hugo leaned on the table. "I can hide you in the flower room." "And wake inside bread?" "There are worse reincarnations." Someone moved on the roof above us. A shadow crossed the kitchen window and vanished. I noticed it because shadows in this world usually made less noise than disappointed assassins. By sunset, I had carried sacks for the kitchen and earned another silver coin. At midnight, I sat alone in an unused boiler room beneath the western dormitory. The room had one locked door, one narrow window, and enough dust to qualify as ancient history. I placed my rejected form on the floor. The voice came from nowhere. It was calm, clear, and impossible. A closed spell cannot include foreign matter or its caster. Your smoke has no closed boundary. I waited for glowing boxes. None appeared. That was kind of the system. I had already spent one life reading small text on broken screens. The voice named 3 paths. Lord of Smoke was available. Mist Assassin required me to hide another living person. Master of the Hidden City required a bond with permanent fog. All 3 paths came from one rule. Anything fully surrounded by my smoke could temporarily become part of the spell. I chose Lord of Smoke. Cold ran through my lungs. I knew my limits as clearly as I knew my own name. I had 100 points of mana. I could control 4 cubic meters of smoke within 6 meters. Turning my whole body into smoke cost 20 points each second. 5 seconds would empty me completely. The numbers were not generous. They were honest. I raised my right hand and breathed out. Gray smoke circled my fingers. I closed it around my smallest finger until skin disappeared. There was no pain. My finger became a thin curl of mist. I pushed it through the iron handle of an old cabinet. The smoke passed through. When I pulled it back, my finger returned with the cabinet key looped around it. I laughed once. The world had called my element useless because wind could scatter it. The world had forgotten that walls could not punch. I restored my mana with a cheap crystal Hugo had found in kitchen ash. It held only 60 points, but that was enough for one dangerous test. I filled the room with 4 cubic meters of smoke. Then I surrounded myself. My skin vanished first. My clothes followed because they were fully inside the boundary. My bones became weightless. My heart stopped beating, yet I remained awake. I moved toward the locked door. For 2 seconds, I was a cloud. For 3 seconds, I was halfway through solid oak. At 4 seconds, wind entered through the narrow window. Part of my left arm stretched toward it. The calm experiment became a very short emergency. I forced myself through the door and reformed in the corridor. My knees struck the floor. My left hand returned last, pale and shaking. I checked myself before standing. 5 fingers, 10 toes, 1 coat button missing. My mana had fallen from 100 to 12 because fear had kept the spell open longer than planned. The system did not repair mistakes. It measured them. The draft from the window had carried almost a fifth of my left arm 6 meters away. If it had crossed the limit, I would have reformed without everything the smoke represented. I closed the window, marked every gap in the wall, and set a simple rule for myself. Never transform fully before measuring the wind. Partial changes were cheaper. A hand cost 4 mana each second. A narrow gap through my chest cost 7. My whole body remained the emergency option. The power could break walls as a rule, but one open window could still break me. That felt fair enough to survive. A black knife touched my throat. "You were rejected this morning," a woman said. "Rejected students usually use doors." I looked up at Iris. She wore the plain black clothes of the night faculty. Her dark hair reached her jaw. Her eyes did not move from my hand. "The door was locked," I said. "That is why doors have locks." "Then the system works?" Her knife pressed closer. "What system?" Before I could answer, metal screamed inside the kitchen above us. Hugo shouted. A steam pipe had burst. Boiling vapor filled the back corridor, and a fallen shelf blocked the kitchen door. 2 assistants escaped through the serving hatch. Hugo did not. His leg was trapped beneath a sack rack beside the ovens. Iris ran for the main door. I ran for the wall. "That is stone," she said. "I noticed." She threw me a blue recovery crystal from her belt. I drained it while running, and my mana returned to 100. Smoke covered me. I crossed the wall in 4 seconds and reformed beside the ovens with 8 mana left. Heat struck my face. Hugo stared at me from the floor. "I take back what I said about bread," I told him. I lifted the rack. It did not move. Smoke did not increase my muscles. A useful cheat was still allowed to have standards. I found the release pin inside the rack, turned one hand into smoke, and reached through the metal frame. The pin dropped. The shelves folded. Hugo pulled his leg free. I opened the rear shutters before the steam could cook us. Iris entered through the door a moment later and helped Hugo outside. 50 students had gathered in the yard. They saw me come from a locked kitchen. They saw the unbroken door. More important, Iris saw me spend my last mana reaching for Hugo instead of escaping alone. She lowered her knife. "The appeal office closes at midnight," she said. The academy bell began its final 12 strokes. "We have 3 minutes," I said. 2.5. Iris grabbed my sleeve and ran. We reached the lower arena during the last bell. Torin stood beside Riven and a group of new scholarship students. He was signing their dormitory badges. Iris placed her Knight faculty token on the desk. "I witnessed an unregistered movement skill and a rescue. I sponsor an emergency utility appeal." Torin stared at her. He produced smoke. He crossed a stone wall. The students became quiet. Riven laughed first. "Then let him prove it. I will test whether he is untouchable." He wanted an audience. By then, more than 60 people had followed us from the kitchen. Freya stood near the back. Hugo arrived on one leg, holding the empty stew bowl like a weapon. Torin could not refuse without making the recording crystal more interesting. 3 attacks, he said. If Nolan avoids all 3, he receives a provisional utility faculty place. If he fails, Iris loses 10 ranking points for wasting academy time. I looked at her. "Do it," Iris said. She pressed a second recovery crystal into my palm. My reserve returned to 100. Her belt was empty after that. Riven entered the circle and removed his expensive coat. "Try not to stain me." His first punch passed through my chest. I had turned only the center of my body into smoke. The change cost 7 mana for less than 1 second. Riven's fist continued into empty air, and he nearly fell. The crowd stopped breathing. His second attack was a dark blade. I surrounded my right shoulder. The blade passed through and struck the target behind me. The target split in half. Someone in the crowd whispered, "He cannot be hit." Riven heard it. His face reddened. He charged with a reinforced fist and enough confidence to move furniture. I waited until the last instant, changed my whole body, and stepped aside as smoke. Riven hit the arena wall. The sound was excellent. He bounced once and sat on the floor. His hand swelled around the academy badge he had been wearing at his belt. I reformed 2 steps away with the badge in my palm. I had taken it while his fist crossed my smoke. The recording crystal displayed 3 failed attacks above the arena. Then it showed my original entrance test. Freya lifted her hand. "The turbine was set to 40 meters per second, she said. "I will testify." The crowd turned toward Torin. Public laughter sounded different when it changed direction. Dean Magnus entered before Torin could answer. He watched the 3 attacks, checked the kitchen report, and looked at my stolen badge. "Return that," he said. I tossed it to Riven. Magnus gave me a plain iron badge. "Nolan is admitted provisionally, rank 240. He receives a dormitory room and 30 silver from the Emergency Rescue Fund." 30 silver landed in my account. My strength had risen from 3 cubic meters of drifting smoke to 4 cubic meters I could wear as a body. My status had moved from rejected to the last name on the academy board. Last place was still a place. Riven stood with one hand swollen and his badge covered in dust. 60 students watched him avoid my eyes. Torin leaned close as I passed. "A trick works once." "Then I will need a second trick tomorrow," I said. Hugo served the remaining stew in my new room. He added melted cheese to the potatoes and rubbed garlic over fresh toast. Iris sat near the window, still holding her knife, though she used it to cut bread. "Why did you help me?" I asked. She looked at Hugo's bandaged leg. "I saw what you did when nobody important was watching." "You were watching." "I was not important yet." That was the first time she smiled. After they left, I tested my control beside the old wall at the end of the dormitory corridor. Smoke entered the cracks between the stones. I expected dust and dead insects. Instead, I felt breathing. Not one person, not 10, thousands. Far behind the wall, bells rang beneath streets that did not exist on any academy map. The system told me that permanent fog had recognized my smoke. The final class path was no longer silent. Then a girl whispered through 6 meters of solid stone. "Nolan," she said, "please do not let them drain us again." By breakfast, half the academy had watched Riven punch a wall. The other half had heard a version in which the wall punched back. My name shone at the bottom of the central ranking crystal, rank 240. Someone had drawn a small cloud beside it. Someone else had drawn Riven sitting inside the cloud and holding his hand. Hugo admired the picture while he fried eggs with onions. He folded melted cheese into each egg, placed them over buttered bread, and added slices of roasted tomato. Art brings people together, he said. Riven tore the drawing down. Art also makes people hungry, Hugo added. I ate before Riven could tear down breakfast. My mana had returned to 100. During the night, my controlled volume had grown to 8 cubic meters, and a full transformation now cost 12 mana each second instead of 20. The growth came from using the open boundary under pressure. The system had not given me a reward for sleeping. I respected that. At the first bell, Instructor Torin summoned me to the mission hall. He had recovered his smile. It now looked carefully repaired. Every provisional student must complete a utility assignment, he said. You will recover old mana cores beneath the eastern wing. The mission crystal showed a narrow tunnel, 12 bronze sockets, and a reward of 8 gold. The danger grade was low. Freya read the airflow marks and frowned. Iris examined the creature tracks in the corner of the image. Those are hollow hound tracks, Iris said. The image is old, Torin replied. How old? I asked. 3 years. Then the hounds have had time to grow. Students gathered behind us. Riven stood in the front row with his injured hand wrapped in white cloth. Torin tapped the crystal, and a second image appeared above every dining hall and classroom. First-year missions were broadcast for safety and ranking assessment. You wanted witnesses, Torin said quietly. Now you have the whole academy. His motive was simple. If I refused, I lost my place. If I entered and failed, the public would forget the turbine. Torin protected the faculty ranking, the grants connected to it, and his own chair. He was not angry enough to kill me personally. He was practical enough to let a tunnel do it. I accept, I said. Iris placed her token beside mine. I am joining as mission observer. Freya added hers. The ventilation map requires a wind specialist. Torin's eyes tightened. This is Nolan's assessment. Then assess how he works with a team, Freya said. The students behind us murmured. Yesterday, she had been a witness. Today, the 5th-ranked student had volunteered to enter my tunnel. Riven laughed too loudly. Take a cook as well. Smoke, wind, and knives still need someone to prepare their funeral meal. Hugo leaned from the kitchen door. I charge extra for rich meat. The mission began 1 hour later. The entrance lay behind the old eastern boiler house. Iron steps descended beneath the academy. Water ran down brick walls. Every 20 meters, a recording crystal followed us on a brass rail. I could feel hundreds of eyes through its blue light. Freya released a thread of wind. The main current moves east. There is a second current from behind that wall. It was the same direction as the hidden breathing. I sent smoke along the floor. 8 cubic meters filled the first tunnel. My control ended at 12 meters. Beyond that line, the edges frayed. Iris stepped into the gray cloud and vanished up to her knees. It hides heat and scent, she said. Not completely. Can it hide me completely? The system had said Mist Assassin required another living person. It had not explained how. I disliked instructions that waited until after the dangerous part. Stand still, I said. Smoke climbed around Iris. It covered her boots, black clothes, hair, and face. For one breath, I felt 2 heartbeats inside my spell. The boundary closed. Iris disappeared. Not blurred, not darkened. Gone. My controlled volume dropped from 8 cubic meters to 6. Hiding her required 2 cubic meters and 5 mana each second. I could feel where she stood, but the recording crystal showed an empty tunnel. Freya walked around the invisible space. Can she breathe? Iris's voice came from the smoke. Yes? Can she see? Better than before. Can she stop putting a knife near my ribs? The knife moved away. Freya nodded. Useful. The system named the second path again. Mist Assassin was now available, but I did not choose a second class. My first class had simply revealed another result of the same open boundary. Iris remained hidden for 20 seconds before my mana fell by 100 points and the smoke released her. The mission hall erupted. We heard the noise through the recording crystal. One commentator repeated the words, complete visual concealment 3 times. My public combat estimate rose from 12 points to 48 before we found the first core. Torin ordered the broadcast volume lowered. The standard mission case held 3 recovery crystals. I drained the first and returned my mana to 100. 2 remained. We removed 3 bronze cores from the wall. Each was worth half a gold, but the Academy would pay the promised 8 only if we recovered all 12. The next chamber had no floor. A narrow bridge crossed a black shaft. Warm air rose from below. I smelled wet fur. The image was old, I said. 6 hollow hounds climbed from the shaft. They had no eyes, their rib cages opened like mouths, and blue mana burned inside them. The smallest was the size of a calf. The largest had shoulders level with mine. The danger grade on the recording crystal changed from low to high. Across the academy, bells began to ring. "The mission is suspended," Magnus's voice said through the crystal. "Return immediately." The iron door behind us slammed shut. Red runes lit around its frame. Torin's voice followed a moment later. "The emergency seal activated automatically." Iris looked at the seal. It was activated from the mission hall. The largest hound jumped. Freya struck it with a wind blade. The creature turned sideways in the air, landed on the wall, and kept running. Iris cut the blue core beneath its ribs. It shattered, and the hound collapsed into wet ash. The other 5 spread out. I filled the bridge with smoke. Their empty heads moved left and right. They could not see us, but they heard our feet. "Hide me," Iris said. 20 seconds. "I need 12. Smoke closed around her. She disappeared and ran. The hounds heard nothing. Iris moved inside my spell as if the gray cloud were her own shadow. One blue core broke, then another. She crossed the narrow bridge while the creatures bit at empty smoke. The 4th hound jumped toward Freya. She sent a wide gust through the tunnel. The hound flew backward, so did half of me. My smoke body stretched toward the shaft. My right side vanished. Pain arrived as cold, not heat. I felt my fingers, ribs, and part of my face sliding beyond 12 meters. Freya saw what she had done. She closed both hands. The wind reversed. Gray strands gathered around her like torn cloth. She compressed them into a spinning sphere and pushed them back toward my remaining body. I reformed on one knee with blood running from my nose. My controlled volume had fallen from 8 cubic meters to 5. The mission hall went silent. Freya stood between me and the hound. "Tell me how to gather you." "Slow spiral. No sharp pressure. Keep every part inside 12 meters. You learned that quickly." "Losing a face improves concentration." She formed a smooth ring of air around my smoke. Instead of scattering, it compressed. 5 cubic meters became a dense gray rope. I wrapped it around the hound's legs. Smoke had no weight, but the creature could not see through it. Freya pulled the ring sideways. The hound followed the false current and stepped off the bridge. It fell into the shaft without dignity. The academy audience shouted loud enough to shake the recording rail. Iris broke the final core. 6 hounds had attacked. None remained on the bridge. I drained the second recovery crystal and returned my mana to 100. 1 remained for the journey back. Our retreat door was still sealed. We could have waited for rescue, but a human cough came from the chamber ahead. I sent a thin line of smoke beneath the next gate. A maintenance worker lay behind it with a broken leg. Beside him, 5 bronze cores burned in an overloaded frame. He had been missing for 2 days, and his mission had never appeared on the public board. "If those cores break, the eastern wing loses its barrier," Freya said. "How long?" I asked. 7 minutes. We had 4 usable cores in our packs. The remaining 8 waited beyond the gate. Iris examined the lock. 3 minutes to cut it. I need 6 seconds. I changed into smoke and crossed the bars. On the other side, a ventilation fan started above me. It was not automatic. The red control crystal flashed with a signal from the mission hall. Torin had pressed another button. Wind tore at my body. I had 8 seconds before my mana failed and less than 12 meters of control. I flattened against the floor, flowed beneath the fan, and reformed beside the wall switch with 1 second left. I shut the fan down, then I opened the gate. Freya stabilized the core frame. Iris carried the worker. I removed all 8 remaining cores and replaced the damaged 5 with 4 healthy ones arranged in a tighter circuit. The barrier recovered to 80%. It was not perfect, but it would hold until engineers arrived. We returned to the entrance with 12 recovered cores, 1 missing worker, 6 destroyed hounds, and a complete recording of the remote fan signal. The mission hall was full. Students stood on benches, professors crowded the rear wall. Riven had stopped smiling. Torin waited beside the control desk with his hands behind his back. Magnus watched the recording of the fan starting while my smoke body was beneath it. "An old automatic system," Torin said. I placed the red control crystal on the desk. The signal came from this hall. Iris pointed toward the control panel. "From the instructor channel." Every recording crystal turned toward Torin. He did not collapse or confess. He was smarter than Riven. "I increased ventilation to prevent a mana explosion," he said. "My decision saved the eastern wing." Freya placed the worker's forgotten mission token beside the crystal. "Then why was the trapped worker removed from the board?" Torin's repaired smile cracked. Magnus raised one hand. A formal investigation begins now. Until it ends, Instructor Torin cannot assign Nolan any private mission. The crowd reacted before Torin could. His name dropped from the top of the faculty approval board to 19th. My mission score rose from 48 to 116. Magnus turned to me. 8 gold for full recovery, 12 low-grade cores for exceeding the objective. Your student rank is now 87. My controlled volume had risen from 8 cubic meters to 18. My effective range had expanded from 12 meters to 20. The ranking crystal changed in front of everyone. 240 became 87. Yesterday, the Academy had removed my name. Today, students copied it onto betting sheets. The mission clerk counted the reward twice before handing it over. 8 gold was more than a kitchen worker earned in 4 months. I separated 1 gold for Hugo's damaged pipe, 1 for new monocrystals, and 2 for a room after my provisional term ended. The remaining 4 became an emergency reserve. Sudden power was useful. Sudden rent remained undefeated. 3 faculty recruiters approached before I left the desk. The stealth faculty offered private lessons. The rescue faculty wanted my name on its next demonstration. The dark faculty, which had rejected me, sent a junior assistant to ask whether I would reconsider joining them after my provisional month. "Did Torin send you?" I asked. The assistant looked toward the investigation room. "He told me not to come. Then I will consider it." That answer reached the crowd. Students repeated it as if I had declared war. My public approval rose above Riven's for the first time. He saw the change on the crystal before pushing through the doors. Riven pushed through the crowd and left. Someone asked whether his wall would be entering the tournament. The hall laughed until the doors closed behind him. That evening, Hugo made cheese omelets again because he had prepared too many eggs during the broadcast. He added fried mushrooms, sweet onions, and thick bread brushed with herb butter. The rescued worker ate with us on a bench, his leg wrapped in a healing brace. Freya apologized for scattering me. "You also gathered me," I said, "only because you shouted instructions. That is how teamwork survives." Iris sat beside me. Our shoulders touched. She placed 1 black thread on the table. "The night faculty ordered me to report any forbidden property in your smoke," she said. Hugo stopped chewing. "What did you report?" I asked. "That it smells bad." "Accurate." She looked at me. "I will not hide the next order from you." It was not a declaration of love. It was better. It was a promise made by someone trained to keep secrets. After dinner, Iris and I returned to the eastern tunnel. Magnus had sealed the official path, but the smoke inside the wall still called me. Freya waited above to monitor the airflow. I sent a narrow gray line through a crack behind the 12 empty sockets. The stone was 6 meters thick. Beyond it, my smoke entered open air. I felt a street. Wet paving stones lay beneath a ceiling of permanent fog. Lamps burned blue along balconies. Hundreds of people stopped and looked toward my tiny thread of smoke. A pale girl stood closest. She wore a simple white coat and a silver crown no wider than a finger. "My name is Cora," she said. "I am the last princess of Vera." She pressed her palm against the other side of the wall. An old emblem lit beneath it. The same emblem appeared on the back of every Academy mission token. "Your school stole our seal," Cora said, "because the Academy is not a school." The blue lamps behind her went dark one by one as the cores above us began another nightly drain. "It is a lid." The next morning, the eastern wall had no crack, no emblem, and no princess behind it. Magnus arrived with 12 guards before sunrise. He listened while Iris and I described Vera. His face showed no surprise. That was an answer before he spoke. "The Eastern Foundation contains a sealed historical zone," he said. "Students are forbidden to enter." "Are there people inside?" I asked. "There are old defenses, unstable fog, and records controlled by the capital." That was not my question. The guards watched us. So did 2 recording crystals Iris had quietly activated. Magnus looked at them. "Win a research permit, then I can legally show you what the Academy is allowed to know." "How?" The first tournament bell rang above us. Magnus walked away. The Academy tournament had begun. The winner received 120 gold, a private laboratory, and access to restricted research halls. The top 8 received limited permits. My name stood at rank 87. I needed 3 victories before sunset to enter the top 8. Riven needed only 1. His family occupied a private box above the arena. His father sat beneath a gold banner and spoke to instructor Torin. Torin had been removed from private missions, but he remained tournament examiner until the investigation ended. Institutions moved slowly, corruption used the stairs, and still arrived first. When the bracket appeared, my first opponent was a fire mage ranked 31. My second was an alchemist ranked 20. My third was Riven. The crowd made the same sound people made when a cart lost a wheel. Riven raised his bandaged hand from the opposite platform. Try becoming smoke inside a fire. Try not to find another wall, I replied. The arena laughed. His father did not. My first opponent was a large fire mage. He had a good record, a careful stance, and no reason to hate me. That made him dangerous. He did not waste time speaking. At the bell, he released a fireball 2 meters wide. I turned my chest into smoke. The fireball passed through the gray gap. Heat still reached the rest of me. My coat began to burn at both shoulders. I rolled across the tile and reformed behind a stone pillar. The audience cheered for the fire mage. They had learned an important truth. Intangible did not mean immune to temperature. My mana reserve had grown to 120. I controlled 18 cubic meters within 20 meters and could hide Iris for 24 seconds if I spent everything. None of that stopped a room from becoming an oven. The fire mage created 3 smaller fireballs. He sent them around the pillar from different directions. I could not dodge all 3. I spread smoke into a hollow sphere around the first fireball. The boundary closed completely. Something changed. The flame became part of my spell. The fireball vanished, but its heat remained inside the smoke. My gray mist turned red at the edges. The system gave me no new gift. It merely confirmed the same rule. I had completely surrounded a foreign property, so my open spell had accepted it. I could hold one property for 30 seconds. The captured attack contained 40 units of heat. My safe limit was 20. The other 2 fireballs struck the pillar and exploded. I stepped through the flames as hot smoke. The arena went silent. The fire mage created a shield. I flowed around it and reformed behind him. My hand touched his shoulder before he could turn. The judge called the match. Then the stored heat returned to my body. Smoke rose from my sleeves. I jumped into the arena fountain with all the dignity available to a boiling man. The audience laughed for nearly a minute. I laughed as well, mostly because my skin still worked. The healers measured light burns across both arms and restored my reserve to 120 under tournament rules. My combat score rose from 116 to 170. My controlled volume rose from 18 cubic meters to 24. The fire mage offered me his hand. Next time I will use more fire. Next time I will bring water. He smiled. The crowd applauded both of us. Torin did not. He entered the arena before the next match. Nolan used an undeclared fire technique. The victory requires review. Freya stood from the Wind faculty seats. The recording shows his opponent created the fire. Possessing another element violates class registration. Then every shield that blocks fire becomes a fire mage, she said. The audience began repeating her words. Torin looked toward Magnus. The dean sat beneath the academy banner and said nothing. The chief judge reviewed the crystal. The technique was reactive and originated from Nolan's registered smoke. Victory stands. My rank moved from 87 to 44 in front of the entire arena. Torin returned to his chair while students counted how many of his decisions had failed in 2 days. My second opponent was the Academy Alchemist. She used green vapor and wore a mask shaped like a bird. Her poison had defeated 9 students without leaving permanent damage. That was an excellent safety record for poison and a terrible comfort for me. At the bell, green gas covered the arena floor. I moved upward as smoke. The alchemist threw glass spheres into the air. They broke above me. The poison surrounded my smoke body from every direction. I could either reform and breathe it or accept it as part of my spell. I opened the boundary. Green flowed into gray. The poison vanished from the arena. My smoke turned dark emerald. I learned its amount, strength, and duration through direct pain. It was enough to paralyze 3 adults for 10 minutes. My body could safely hold half that amount for 20 seconds. I had taken all of it. The alchemist stared at the clean air. Where did it go? I reformed behind her. Bad location? I said. My legs stopped working. I fell flat on my face. The arena exploded with noise. The alchemist turned, saw me on the floor, and raised both hands in victory. Then, a thin thread of green smoke touched her ankle. I had kept one finger intangible. The stored poison flowed into the leather of her boot. I released only enough to numb her foot for 3 seconds. She fell beside me. We lay on the tile and looked at each other. This is not my best match, she said. It is in my top 2. The judge began a 10-second count. The alchemist could not stand. I changed both arms to smoke, pushed them through the floor grating, and reformed my hands beneath it. I pulled myself upright using the bars. At 9 seconds, I stood. The arena roared. Iris did not. She vaulted the barrier the instant the victory bell rang and gave me an antidote. Her hand held the vial against my lips while the healers carried the alchemist away. "You absorbed enough poison to stop your heart," Iris said. "It stopped only my legs. Your heart is not allowed to experiment. I will inform it." Her expression did not soften, but her fingers remained around mine until I could walk. The system fixed the rule in my memory. 1 absorbed property, 30 seconds at most. Anything above my safe capacity returned as damage. No second element could be stored until the first was released. My smoke volume rose to 30 cubic meters. The healers paid me nothing, but the alchemist's sponsor gave me 5 gold for clearing poison from the arena before it reached the lower seats. My name climbed to rank 19. The official break restored my mana before the final. Though the poison left my hands shaking, I had gained strength, money, and status. I had also learned that copying poison with my own lungs was a poor business model. The final match began at sunset. Riven entered wearing white armor and a silver ring on his injured hand. His family banner covered an entire side of the arena. Torin personally checked his equipment, then declared it legal. Freya leaned over the railing. "The ring contains a wind core." "Registered?" I asked. "No." "How strong?" "Strong enough to scatter 30 cubic meters." That was exactly how much I owned. Riven drew a black practice sword. "You embarrassed my family twice. You punched the wall by yourself. When I win, your provisional place becomes mine." Torin lifted the starting flag. A complete defeat allows a ranking challenge. The condition had not appeared in either of my earlier matches. The recording crystals turned toward him. Torin did not care. He expected the wind ring to erase the problem before anyone could review the rule. The flag fell. Riven activated the ring. Wind struck me from 4 sides. I compressed my smoke around my bones instead of transforming completely. My coat snapped against my body. Dust left the arena in a perfect circle. Riven attacked through the center. I changed my shoulder. His sword passed through, but the wind dragged half the smoke away. Pain cut across my chest. I reformed before the gray strands crossed 20 meters. Riven swung again. I ducked. The blade removed a strip of hair. The crowd counted his attacks. 3, 4, 5. He had learned from the wall. He no longer aimed where I was. He drove me toward the open edge of the arena, where the ring could scatter my smoke into the audience barrier. I released the captured poison from my body and filled the ring around him with ordinary gray mist. He blew it away. The ring flashed blue. Freya stood. "That is a military wind seal." Torin ordered her recording crystal disabled. I needed evidence the whole arena could see. Riven charged for the final strike. I remembered the first match. Heat had made my smoke rise faster than wind could push it sideways. I threw my 5 gold reward toward the healer platform. "Light flame!" I shouted. One healer understood. She fired a small cleansing flame into the coin pouch before it landed. I surrounded the flame with smoke and absorbed 20 units of heat, exactly my safe limit. My mist turned red. It rose in a narrow column. Riven's horizontal wind missed most of it. I flowed above his head, then dropped behind him as the heat expired. My smoke wrapped around his illegal ring. Metal glowed orange. Riven screamed and pulled it off. The ring struck the floor. Its hidden military seal burned bright blue where every recording crystal could see it. The arena became silent for one breath. Then 20,000 voices hit Riven harder than any spell. "Illegal core! Disqualify him! Check Torin!" Riven looked toward his father's box. His father stepped back from the railing. Torin rose. "The ring was not present during inspection." The equipment crystal replayed his own hand closing around it before the match. Public facts had finished waiting. Riven attacked me anyway. His sword crossed my smoke chest. I took the weapon through my body, reformed both hands around the hilt, and turned. His own momentum carried him over my shoulder. He flew into the gold family banner. The cloth tore from top to bottom. Riven landed inside it, wrapped like an expensive package nobody had ordered. I placed one foot on his sword. The chief judge ended the match. My name rose to rank 8. The pressure of the final exchange expanded my controlled volume from 30 to 36 cubic meters. My range reached 30 meters. The increase appeared on the arena measuring crystal, and the crowd cheered a number that Torin had once insisted would remain 0. The roar continued while guards removed the illegal ring. Riven's tournament score fell to 0. His scholarship was suspended pending investigation. Torin lost equipment authority in front of the academy and every visiting family. Riven lay beneath the torn banner, breathing too fast. The overheated ring had burned his hand through the glove. A healer fired a light spell toward him, but part of the damaged arena barrier reflected it. I surrounded the reflected light with smoke. Warm gold entered my spell. It was not heat, it was restoration. I could hold the property for 15 seconds. I released it over Riven's hand. Gray smoke turned pale gold. The burn closed enough to stop permanent damage. Riven stared at me. The audience saw that too. "Why?" he asked. "I need you healthy enough to hear the result." The chief judge announced my reward: 30 gold for reaching the top 8, a restricted research permit, a place in the tournament final the next day. The arena repeated my name. That night, Hugo took us to a street stall outside the academy. The cook served dumplings with crisp bottoms and bowls of clear chicken broth. Green onions floated on top. Chili oil formed red circles around slices of garlic. We ate beneath paper lanterns while strangers argued about which of Riven's 3 public defeats had been best. Hugo preferred the wall. Freya preferred the torn banner. Iris said nothing. "Which one?" I asked her. "The healing smoke. That was not a defeat." "I was not talking about Riven." She touched the burn on my wrist. Her hand was warm. Around us, the city was loud, but the space between us became quiet. "I was trained to recognize monsters before they grew strong," she said. "You keep making my report difficult. Write that I am expensive to feed." Hugo already filed that report. Iris smiled. This time, she did not look away. We returned to the eastern wall with my research permit. Magnus's guards had left, but a new capital seal covered the stones. I released the last trace of restorative light into my smoke. Gold mist touched the seal. Hidden lines appeared across the wall. They formed a door 3 meters high and the emblem of Veira. Beneath the emblem, words emerged in the old language. The academy was built 112 years ago to contain the city and harvest its permanent fog. Iris read the final line aloud. Inspection authority belongs to the Order of the Clear Sky. Carriage horns sounded above us. Heavy boots entered the academy courtyard. A man's voice rolled through every recording crystal, smooth and confident. "I am Inspector Varric of the capital," he announced. "I came one day early because I heard a failed smoke mage had learned to swallow spells." The hidden door pulsed beneath my hand. On the other side, Cora whispered one warning. "That is the man who drains us." At sunrise, Inspector Varric entered the academy like a man arriving at a building he already owned. He wore a white coat with no dust on its hem. A sun-shaped badge rested over his heart. 12 Capitol guards followed him, each carrying a silver staff designed to disperse fog. Students filled the courtyard balconies. Visiting families crowded the tournament boxes. Every recording crystal turned toward him. Varric stopped in front of me. "Nolan," he said, "1 week ago, your registered combat value was 4. Yesterday morning, it was 12. And now? Ask after the final." The crowd reacted with a low wave of laughter. Varric smiled. He was not Riven. Insults did not push him. They gave him information. "Confidence is useful," he said. "So is measurement. The capital prefers both." He looked at Iris, then at Freya, then at the research permit in my hand. His eyes paused for half a second on the old wall behind us. "The tournament will continue," he announced. "After the final, I will personally certify the winner." Magnus came down the academy stairs. Capital certification was not requested. It was requested 112 years ago. The same number was written on the hidden seal. Magnus's face hardened. Varric walked past him toward the arena. By noon, every seat was full. My opponent in the final was Freya. She stood at rank 5 before the tournament. 3 victories had moved her to rank 2. No student in the academy controlled wind as precisely. She had also proved that she could scatter my body with one frightened movement. Hugo handed me a paper bag before I entered the arena. Inside were 2 warm rolls filled with roast beef, soft onions, and mustard. "Eat now," he said. "If she blows you into the upper seats, lunch will be difficult." Freya heard him from the opposite gate. "I can aim for the kitchen." "That would improve service," I said. The crowd laughed. Freya did too. Iris tightened the strap around my wrist. It carried 3 low-grade monocores. Together, they held 180 points. My own reserve was 160 after 3 days of growth. I controlled 36 cubic meters of smoke within 30 meters. Full transformation cost 12 mana each second. Wind remained my worst enemy. If she scatters more than half of you, I am entering the arena, Iris said. That would disqualify me. Being alive reduces the importance of rankings. Not according to the Academy. She pulled the strap tighter than necessary. Return in one piece. I entered. Freya carried no weapon. Air circled both wrists in clear rings. She waited until the chief judge raised his hand. No illegal cores, she said. No walls, I replied. The bell rang. Her first wind blade crossed the arena before the sound ended. I opened a gap in my torso. The blade passed through the smoke and cut the stone railing behind me. A second blade followed at ankle height. I jumped. A third struck from above. Freya was not trying to hit me. She was dividing the arena into smaller spaces. Within 10 seconds, 5 spinning walls of air trapped me near the center. I released smoke along the floor. She lifted it with an upward current. I compressed it. She split the column into 6 pieces. The audience watched my gray body spread across the arena like laundry in a storm. 30 meters, Freya called. She knew my range. A broad gust pushed 2 smoke pieces toward the boundary. I pulled them back. Another gust struck from behind. My control shook. Freya closed both hands. A transparent sphere of moving air formed around me. Pressure increased. My ears rang. If I became smoke, the sphere would scatter me in every direction. If I remained solid, it would crush me. I filled the sphere with gray mist. Smoke touched every part of the moving air. The boundary closed. I had surrounded 20 cubic meters of wind. The air became part of my spell. I did not copy its movement. I took the air itself. The transparent sphere lost pressure because its contents now obeyed my smoke instead of Freya's command. Her spell collapsed. The arena flags fell still. Freya's eyes widened. You stole my wind. Only the part I surrounded. The air added 20 cubic meters to my controlled burden. My mana fell by 10 points each second. I could hold it for 6 seconds. I released it behind me. The pressure became a short gray gust. It did not attack Freya. It pushed me forward. I crossed the arena before she formed another blade. My fingers touched her shoulder. She turned into a spiral of air. It was a decoy. The real Freya appeared behind me and drove a palm between my shoulders. Wind exploded through my coat. Half my body became smoke by instinct. She caught it. Instead of scattering me, Freya used the slow spiral we had practiced. My gray form compressed around her arm. I could feel her inside the edge of my spell. She smiled. You are not the only one who learns. She threw me toward the ground. I turned fully intangible, passed through the first layer of arena stone, moved sideways beneath her feet, and reformed with one hand above the surface. My fingers closed around her ankle. The judge called contact. For one breath, nobody understood. Then I pulled myself out of the floor, covered in dust, while Freya stood perfectly still with my hand around her boot. The victory bell rang. The arena rose. Freya helped me stand. Next time, I removed the floor. Riven may know a wall seller. Even Riven's former friends laughed at that. Riven himself watched from the lowest public bench without his silver coat. His suspended badge lay in his lap. My name moved to rank 1. The tournament crystal announced 120 gold, a private laboratory, and full academy research access. My combat estimate rose from 170 to 340. My controlled smoke expanded from 36 cubic meters to 48. Strength, resources, and status all changed before thousands of witnesses. I had not yet left the arena when Varric stood. An impressive student victory, he said. Now for capital certification. Magnus rose from his chair. The tournament is complete. Then your champion has nothing to fear. Varric entered the arena without removing his white coat. The sun badge over his heart opened into 6 metal petals. Heat rolled across the stands. The protective barrier activated around us. One defensive exchange, Varric said. Survive my spell, and the Order will recognize your rank. What happens if I refuse? The Order recognizes nothing. The audience heard every word. I checked my reserve. 106 mana remained in my body. The wrist cores held 180. Iris stood at the barrier with one hand on her knife. Freya had not left the arena gate. One exchange, I said. Varric lifted one finger. A white flame appeared above it. The chief judge stepped backward. That is a rank S furnace spell. Varric expanded the flame into a burning sphere 4 meters wide. Air rushed toward it. The arena banners leaned inward. Stone beneath the spell began to glow. One exchange did not require a spell capable of melting the arena. Varric was measuring how much of his weapon I could absorb. If I died, he lost a curiosity. If I survived, he found a tool. He released the furnace. I spread all 48 cubic meters of smoke around it. The sphere pushed forward. My outer smoke ignited. I closed the boundary around the air feeding the flame, 30 cubic meters. Too much. My mana reserve dropped by half in 1 second. I drained the first wrist core and claimed the air inside the furnace. Fire needed fuel and air. I could not remove the magic, but I could remove what allowed it to burn. The white sphere shrank. The audience saw a rank S spell become the size of a carriage, then a barrel, then a fist. I closed my smoke around the final flame and absorbed its heat. My safe limit was 40 units. The furnace contained 400. I held it for less than 1 second and released it upward. A red column struck the arena barrier. The barrier flashed, cracked, and survived. Varric's spell was gone. For the first time, the inspector stopped smiling. The combat crystal displayed my new estimate, 812. The number appeared above Varric's empty hand. Thousands of people stared at it. A rejected smoke mage had erased a rank S furnace in 4 seconds. Then stored heat hit my body. I fell to one knee. My lungs burned. Blood touched my lips. Varric raised a second finger. "The exchange is complete," Magnus said. The first spell was contaminated. White wind formed around Varric's hand. It smelled of cold metal. The silver staves carried by his guards responded. Iris drew her knife. Freya stepped through the arena gate. "Inspector, stop!" Varric released the wind. It cut my smoke apart. My body vanished from the center outward. Gray fragments crossed 10 meters, 20, then 28. My control began to fail. 40% of me reached the barrier. Another 10% followed. The audience screamed. Freya moved both arms in a slow spiral. Her wind caught every fragment before it crossed 30 meters. She gathered my smoke from the barrier, the floor, and the air above the arena. Iris stepped into the spiral and held my coat at its center like an anchor. I reformed between them with both knees on the ground. Varric's second spell had failed to kill me in front of the Capitol Guards, the Academy, and every visiting family. I still had 12 mana. I sent a thin ring of smoke around his head. It surrounded the air he was about to breathe. I claimed only half a cubic meter and pulled it away. Varric inhaled nothing. His face changed. He tried to speak. No sound came. After 3 seconds, one knee touched the arena floor. I released the air before he lost consciousness. "Certification complete," I said. The recording crystals preserved the Capitol Inspector kneeling before the smoke mage he had tried to erase. The arena did not laugh immediately. The silence was heavier. Then applause began in the student seats. It moved outward until even visiting nobles stood. Varric rose slowly. His smile returned, but it had become a promise. Before he could speak, Iris threw a black crystal onto the arena floor. It projected 3 records above us: Torrens' turbine setting from my entrance test, the remote fan signal from the tunnel, his inspection of Riven's illegal wind ring. "The Knight faculty completed its investigation," she said. Freya added her witness seal. The rescued worker added his from the healer section. The fire mage and the alchemist stood as tournament witnesses. The crowd saw times, mana signatures, and Torrens' private instructor code. Magnus faced Torren. "Why?" he asked. Torren stood alone beside the judges' table. He did not deny the records. "The Dark Faculty loses capital money for every low combat score," he said. "Riven's family paid for half this arena. Nolan's smoke would have lowered our average. I protected 400 students by removing 1. His reason was real. His choice was still his. Magnus removed Torren's instructor badge. You protected a number, Nolan protected people. The approval board above the arena erased Torren's title. His name dropped below every junior teacher. Students who had laughed at me on the first day watched him carry his papers out through the same gate. No one moved aside for him. Varric waited until the applause ended. "The Order will review these local failures." "Review your second attack as well," Magnus said. Varric looked at the recording crystals. "Of course." The tournament feast began at sunset. Hugo had taken control of the faculty kitchen through a combination of confidence and nobody stopping him. He roasted chickens with garlic and lemon until the skin cracked under the knife. He served potatoes crushed with butter, green beans with toasted almonds, and small apple pies covered in warm cream. Freya ate enough for someone who had spent the afternoon moving half a human cloud. Magnus joined us without his official coat. Even Riven appeared at the far end of the hall. He kept his head down and ate plain bread. My account held more than 160 gold. A brass key to a private laboratory rested beside my plate. Students asked for training, interviews, and pieces of my burned coat. My status had changed so quickly that the academy had not decided how to behave around me. Iris took me onto the empty kitchen balcony. "You almost died twice," she said. "Only once. The first time was mostly boiling." "That does not help." She touched the side of my face where Varric's wind had left a pale cut. I covered her hand with mine. "You gathered me," I said. "Freya gathered you. You gave me a center." Iris stepped closer. For a moment, the noise of the feast disappeared. The balcony door opened. Varric entered with 12 guards. Hugo looked past him from the kitchen. "Dessert is for invited murderers only." Varric unfolded a white document. "Nolan is under arrest for open boundary magic, prohibited by capital law. Iris is under arrest for concealing a magical anomaly. Freya is confined to academy grounds pending review." Magnus read the sun seal. His hands tightened. "The law predates this kingdom. So does the thing beneath your academy." Every student in the hall heard him. Varric had said too much. I allowed the guards to place silver cuffs around my wrists. Fighting inside a crowded kitchen would spend lives I did not own. Iris offered her hands without being asked. "I told you I would not hide the next order." The guards led us toward the capital carriage. They chose the eastern corridor because it was empty. When we reached the old wall, the cuffs began draining my mana. My smoke leaked from my fingers anyway. It entered the hidden seal. The stone answered. Varric stopped. "Move him away." Too late. The corridor floor vanished beneath permanent gray fog. The wall opened from the center, not like a door, but like an eye. Beyond it stood Cora in her narrow silver crown. Thousands of people filled the blue-lit street behind her. Some carried tools, some carried weapons. All of them looked at the academy guards as prisoners looked at an open gate. Cora pointed at Varric. "That man has taken our air, our magic, and our children for 12 years, she said. The permanent fog crossed the threshold and wrapped around my silver cuffs. The metal dissolved from sight as it became part of my spell. Deep beneath us, an entire hidden city opened its eyes. Dawn never reached Vera, but its clocks still called the next morning. Bluebells rang through streets carved under the academy. Houses climbed the cavern walls, bridges joined stone towers, and colored lamps leaned toward pipes in the ceiling. The academy was drawing magic upward. Cora raised one hand. The citizens behind her stopped before they reached Varric's guards. Some had gray eyes. Some had smoke moving beneath their skin. None looked surprised to see capital uniforms. Varric stepped backward through the hidden gate. "Close the extraction seal." His guards struck their silver staffs against the floor. White wind scattered the permanent fog. Freya appeared at the far end of the corridor and bent it into the slow spiral we had practiced. My smoke gathered, and Vera's fog rolled back through the gate. "You were confined to academy grounds," Varric said. Freya looked down at the city beneath the academy. "I am still under the academy." While the guards hesitated, I hid Iris's cuffed hands and guided one smoky finger through the lock. Her knife appeared beneath Varric's chin. The citizens saw the capital inspector held by the woman he had arrested. The academy guards saw it too. For one breath, nobody knew which law controlled the corridor. Varric knew. "If I do not report by noon, the Clear Sky engine will activate," he said. "It will remove every particle of fog beneath this hill." Cora's face became still. "There are 8,400 people inside that fog." "Then tell your people to surrender the city core. You have taken 1/10 of its power every year. The kingdom's northern barrier saves millions." There was the reason beneath his cruelty. The capital expected war. Vera's permanent fog powered shields, furnaces, and weather weapons. Varric believed 8,000 hidden lives were cheaper than a visible army. People became numbers when officials stood far enough away. Iris pressed the knife closer. A line of blood appeared on Varric's neck. "Killing him starts the engine," I said. "Letting him leave also starts it," she replied. Varric smiled carefully. "Correct." I took his sun badge. The metal contained a transmission crystal. Smoke entered its seams and found a signal already moving toward the surface. I surrounded the tiny pocket of air inside the crystal and stopped its vibrating membrane. The signal died. Varric's smile disappeared. "We have until noon," I said. Cora led us into Vera. The hidden gate closed behind the guards, leaving them under academy watch. Varric remained with us because Iris remained behind him. At street level, the permanent fog reached my knees. It felt different from ordinary mist. Every drop carried old mana and a faint memory of stone, bells, and breathing. The entire city existed inside it. The system, named the Last Path, Master of the Hidden City, was compatible, but not mine. A city was not an object I could steal by surrounding it. The permanent fog had to accept my boundary through 5 anchor towers and the core beneath Korra's palace. 5 anchors? I said. Korra nodded. The Academy sealed 4. Varric controls the 5th. If we open them, the fog can choose a guardian. If it rejects you, it will tear your body across the entire city. I looked at Iris. Do not say it, she said. I was going to say, the odds are improving. They are not. We reached the central square. Thousands of citizens filled its steps and bridges. Korra climbed onto the dry fountain. She did not offer them a polished speech. She told them the truth. The engine would activate at noon. The academy had opened. A surface mage could join the city fog, but the attempt might kill him. An old woman in a gray coat stepped forward. Why would a surface mage risk that? Because your wall spoke before my academy did, I said. What do you want in return? Access to the truth, payment for dangerous work, a meal before noon. The crowd was silent. Then someone laughed. It spread across the square, not at me, but with me. Korra lifted the narrow crown from her head. The city treasury will pay 300 gold if we survive. The council will grant 100 mist cores for defense. No land, throne, or marriage will be included. Iris lowered her knife just enough to look at Korra. Korra met her eyes. I read surface novels? The square laughed again. One romance was already complicated enough. I appreciated efficient government. The first anchor stood in the market district. Its doorway had been filled with academy concrete. I turned into smoke, entered the narrow cracks, and reached the old mechanism. 48 cubic meters of permanent fog pressed against my own spell. I opened the boundary. Cold filled every part of me. The anchor lit blue. My controlled volume rose from 48 to 56 cubic meters. My range expanded from 30 meters to the edge of the market square. Citizens saw their dead lamps burn again. Shopkeepers rang brass bowls. Children ran through the fog and shouted my name. The second anchor stood below the western dormitory. Magnus waited there. He had entered Vera through a maintenance lift with Hugo, Riven, and 30 academy students. Hugo carried 2 enormous cooking pots. Riven carried a rolled map and looked as if he had slept inside his shame. Citizens surrounded Magnus. You knew, Korra said. Magnus did not reach for his authority badge. I knew a sealed population lived beneath the academy. I was told the extraction prevented the fog from expanding into the capital. I did not know children were taken. You never asked where they went. He accepted the words without defense. No. Riven unrolled his map. My family built the western ventilation system. The 5th anchor is inside the tournament furnace. Varric moved it there 12 years ago. Varric looked at him. Your family was paid well. My family did not tell me what the pipes carried. Now you know, I said. Riven's jaw tightened. That is why I brought the plans. Magnus placed both hands on the academy seal, blocking the second anchor. Every recording crystal above is still connected to this structure. Open the anchor, and I can send Vera's image through them. Witnesses. Varric stopped smiling again. I passed through the seal and opened the second anchor. Blue light climbed the tower. My smoke reached 64 cubic meters. Magnus connected the anchor to the academy network. Every classroom, arena, city announcement board, and visiting family crystal showed Vera. The hidden people were hidden no longer. Students watched children stand beneath drainpipes. Professors saw the streets beneath their offices. Citizens on the surface gathered outside the academy gates. Varric could no longer describe Vera as an empty magical zone. He turned to Magnus. You have committed treason. Magnus faced the nearest recording crystal. I maintained a prison because the capital called it a shield. That was my decision. The academy will end the extraction today. His confession crossed the kingdom before Varric's guards could block it. The third anchor lay beneath the old kitchen. Its chamber had flooded with cold fog. Iris rode inside my concealed smoke while Freya compressed a path through the current. We reached the central valve without alerting the silver sentries Varric had left there. Iris emerged behind the 2 sentries, cut the straps from their staffs, and tapped both helmets with her blade. You are dead, she said. They surrendered in front of the recording crystals. By noon, everyone knew the assassin who could walk inside living smoke. The third anchor opened. My volume rose to 72 cubic meters. Hugo declared that no one should defend a city hungry. He turned an abandoned dining hall into a kitchen. Vera's cooks brought smoked lamb, mushrooms, onions, and jars of honey. Hugo browned the lamb in iron pans, cooked the mushrooms in butter, and poured dark broth over everything. He baked flatbread against the hot stone wall and covered it with honey and salt. We ate at one long table while blue light moved through the windows. Iris and I sat on the palace steps with one bowl between us. She tore honey bread in half and handed me the larger piece. "If the city tears you apart, Freya cannot gather you from every street," she said. "Then give me a center again." "How?" I touched my forehead to hers. "Stay where I can find you." She kissed me once. It was quick, warm, and more frightening than Varric's furnace because I had no numbers for it. "Find that," she said. The fourth anchor alarm rang before I answered. Capital guards had entered through the northern shaft. Above us, the clear sky engine activated early. It was 11 in the morning. Varric had lied about noon. White light entered Vera through the ceiling pipes. Permanent fog rose in thick columns and vanished upward. Citizens collapsed as mana left their bodies. The blue lamps dimmed. Varric stood despite his bonds. "The engine cannot be stopped from below." "Your map says otherwise," Riven said. He pointed to the fifth anchor inside the tournament furnace. The engine and the anchor shared one air intake. I absorbed restorative light from a Vera lamp. Gold spread through my gray smoke. Freya drove it along the streets with controlled wind. Healing mist covered the people who had fallen. I could hold the property for 30 seconds, release it, then collect another lamp. Each cycle burned 50 mana. The city cores restored me, but each cracked after one use. 20 became 12, then 6. Heroism without inventory was a short career. I reached the fourth anchor with Iris and Cora. Silver wind filled its chamber. 3 capital guards stood behind a rotating barrier. Freya attacked the barrier from the opposite vent. Her wind met theirs. Pressure shook the tower. I expanded smoke around the entire rotating current. 60 cubic meters of moving air entered my open boundary. My mana dropped to 20. I held it for 2 seconds, moved the stolen air behind the guards, and released it. Their own pressure threw them into a net of Iris's black cords. The fourth anchor lit. My controlled volume reached 80 cubic meters. More important, 4 districts accepted my smoke. Streets, doors, and towers became shapes I could feel through the permanent fog. The recording network showed the Capitol guards hanging upside down while citizens opened the anchor below them. Varric's public approval score fell to 0. He watched it happen on a street crystal. "Approval does not stop an army. Neither does hiding 8,000 witnesses," I said. We returned to the central square. The fifth anchor pulsed directly above us inside the Academy arena. The clear sky engine pulled fog through it faster every second. Cora opened the palace floor. Beneath it floated the city core, a gray sphere as wide as a house. Faces moved through its surface. Generations of guardians had left memories inside it. "The core must accept you," she said. "I cannot command it." I entered as smoke. The city reached back. For one moment, I felt 8,400 breaths. I felt every closed door, every empty bowl, every child hiding beneath a table. I also felt the people above. Students pressed against academy windows. Citizens crowded the outer gates. Recording crystals carried Vera across the capital. I did not become the city. The city allowed me to carry its fog. Master of the hidden city awakened. My personal limit remained 80 cubic meters. Inside Vera, the permanent fog became a shared field with no fixed volume. If I left the city, that power stayed behind. If the people rejected me, the bond ended. It was not a throne. It was responsibility, with excellent visibility. I moved upward through every extraction pipe at once. Gray smoke erupted into the academy arena. Students shouted and stepped back. The clear sky engine stood where Varric had knelt the day before. It was a white metal sphere surrounded by 12 furnaces. Capital guards held the entrances. Freya gathered my rising fog into one dense ring. Magnus opened the arena barrier. Riven used his family map to unlock the western service gate. Iris traveled inside my smoke and appeared at the engine controls. She removed the command crystal before the guards saw her. The engine continued. It no longer needed commands. Each furnace drew air through the fifth anchor. Fire turned Vera's fog into white power. I surrounded the shared intake with permanent smoke. The boundary closed around 120 cubic meters of air, far beyond my personal capacity. The city core carried the weight with me. I took the air away from the furnaces. 12 flames died together. The white sphere cracked, the fifth anchor dropped from its center and fell toward the arena floor. Freya caught it on a cushion of wind. Riven slid beneath the engine, took the impact on his damaged armor, and pushed the anchor toward my smoke. It entered the boundary. Blue light crossed every academy wall. The extraction stopped. For one silent second, nothing moved. Then Vera's permanent fog poured upward through open gates instead of drain pipes. It did not attack. It formed images above the arena: children, streets, empty core chambers, 12 years of Varric's signed extraction orders. Iris had found them inside the command crystal. Varric's own voice filled every recording crystal. He had authorized the removal of gifted children as living conduits. He had increased the yearly drain after being warned that Vera's population would weaken. He had planned to empty the city core before the Northern War began. Varric stood in the central square below, surrounded by the people named in his records. I moved the fog around him. It formed a clear cylinder with no air inside. He tried to speak. He tried to activate his sun badge, but the badge was still in my pocket. After 3 seconds, he dropped to one knee, the same position the Academy had recorded in the arena. I returned the air. "Certification complete," Cora said. 8,000 citizens heard her. Thousands of students heard her. The capital heard her. Magnus entered the square with Academy guards. He carried no weapon. "Under the original Vera Treaty, crimes committed inside the city fall under its council," he said. "The Academy recognizes Cora's authority." Varric looked toward the recording crystal. "The Order will destroy this place before it allows the core to leave control." "Then the Order can say that publicly," I replied. Cora's guards took him away. By evening, Vera's gates stood open. Surface healers entered. Families separated for years found one another in the Academy courtyard. The city council transferred 300 gold to my account and placed 100 mist cores in the new defense vault. Magnus recognized me as Academy champion and official guardian of Vera. My name appeared on 2 public boards instead of 1. Hugo served the remaining lamb in the central square. Freya slept beside an empty core crate. Riven worked with repair crews without asking whether anyone watched. Iris stood beside me on the highest bridge. 5 days earlier, my smoke had lasted 1 second against a turbine. Now it covered a city because the city had chosen not to face the wind alone. Iris took my hand. The cavern ceiling turned white. A ray struck Vera's outer watchtower. Stone, metal, and fog vanished without fire or sound. The tower did not fall. It simply stopped existing. Every recording crystal carried one message from the Order of the Clear Sky: surrender the city core and the open boundary mage within 7 days. High above the Academy, a second white sun opened behind the clouds. The Order had given me 7 days. I counted 6 more than I intended to waste.